Listen to the sound of the red dirt. Close your eyes for just a second and imagine standing at the edge of the courts of the Mutua Madrid Open. If you get toll close enough, if you tune out the roar of the crowd and the chatter of the Plohier broadcasters, you can hear it. It is a distinct, sliding, scraping sound. It is the sound of rubber and synthetic soles tearing across crushed brick. It is the sound of friction. It is the sound of struggle. It is the sound of the most physically demanding, lung-burning, leg-destroying surface in the entire sport of professional tennis. Welcome to the clay. Welcome to a modern-day gladiator, arena where careers are forged in fire, where hype is violently tested, and where the absolute, unfiltered truth of a player's soul is exposed under the punishing, blinding Spanish sun. You are not just tuning in for a tennis match today. You are about to bear witness to a collision of two entirely different universes. On one side of the net, you have the raw, unbridled exuberance of youth. You have a blazing meteor of potential carrying the immense weight, the desperate hopes, and the fervent whispered prayers of an entire nation. On the other side of the net, standing in the shadows, waiting patiently, you have the ultimate gatekeeper. You have an icy, calculating, ruthless veteran, a Grand Slam champion who has made a highly lucrative career out of breaking the hearts of rising stars and sending them packing back to the locker room. This is not just a second round match in a tennis tournament. This is a generational clash. This is explosive momentum stepping into the ring with surgical, unyielding stability. This is raw athletic power going toe-to-toe with absolute tactical genius. This is Alex Eala versus Elise Mertens, and the entire tennis world is holding its collective breath. To even begin to understand the sheer overwhelming magnitude of this moment, you have to truly understand the journey of the 20-year-old prodigy standing at the baseline, bouncing the ball, staring across the net. Alex Eala is not just another young player on the WTA Tour hoping to scrape together a few ranking points and make a name for herself. She is a phenomenon. She is a cultural icon in the making, hailing from the Philippines, a country with a massive, deeply passionate sports culture that has historically been dominated by basketball and boxing. There is very little historical footprint for them in the elite, exclusive echelons of professional tennis. Because of that, Eala is carrying a psychological burden that would absolutely crush the spirit of most players her age. When she steps out from the tunnel and her sneakers touch the court, she is not just playing for prize money. She is not just playing for a trophy. She is playing for over 100 million Filipinos back home who are completely captivated by her journey. Right now, on the other side of the world, it is the middle of the night, but no one is sleeping. Families are staying up until the early hours of the morning, their eyes glued to their television screens and their smartphones, living and dying with every single swing of her racket, every single gasp of breath, every single point. She is the undeniable, beating heart of her nation's sporting pride. But let us get one thing perfectly straight. Alex Eala is not just a great heartwarming underdog story. She is a terrifyingly dangerous tennis player who has arrived to take heads. You do not become this good, this fast, by accident. You do not step onto the trade world stage at 20 years old and command this kind of respect through sheer luck. You become this good through the crucible of elite punishing training. Elise Mertens is a premium product of the legendary Rafa Nadal Academy in Mallorca, Spain. Let that reality sink into your mind for a moment. She has been molded in the very same environment, under the exact same grueling philosophy as the greatest clay court player to ever walk the face of the earth. The Nadal ethos is not just something she was taught, it is etched directly into her athletic DNA. It is a philosophy built on relentless suffering. It is a mindset of absolute refusal to ever give up on a single ball, no matter how far out of reach it seems. It is the unwavering commitment to treating every single point in the first set as if it were championship point in the final of a Grand Slam. And you can see that undeniable Spanish influence bleeding into every single aspect of her game. She possesses an explosive, fast-twitch athleticism that literally jumps off the screen. When you watch her footwork on the clay, it is nothing short of mesmerizing. She does not just run on this surface, she glides. She understands the subtle, chaotic, unpredictable physics of the red dirt. She knows exactly how to slide into a wide defensive stance, plant her outside foot, to arrest her momentum and turn a desperate defensive retrieve into a blistering heavy topspin offensive strike in the absolute blink of an eye. She plays with a violence and a passion that demands your attention. If you want concrete proof of her rapid, terrifying evolution, you do not need to look very far into the history books. You just need to look at what she did a few days ago in the first round of this very tournament. The draw gods were not kind to her. They handed her an absolute nightmare of a first-round matchup. She was drawn against Anastasia Pavlyuchenkova, a battle-tested former finalist at the French Open, a woman who knows exactly how to bully opponents on clay. A battle-tested former finalist at the French Open, a woman who knows exactly how to bully opponents on clay. A battle-tested former finalist at the French Open, a woman who knows exactly how to bully opponents on clay. A battle-tested former finalist at the French Open, woman who hits a brutally heavy punishing ball that can tear the racket right out of a young player's hands. The global tennis critics, the odds makers, and the analysts looked at that matchup and collectively agreed that it would be a tough learning experience for the young Filipina. They thought she would be outmuscled. They thought she would be overpowered by the veteran's sheer physical force. They were wrong. They were dead. Incredibly wrong. What Alex Eala delivered in that opening round was not just a win, it was a violent masterclass in controlled aggression. It was a resounding statement that echoed through the locker rooms and the practice courts of Madrid. She did not just beat a former Grand Slam finalist, she dismantled her. She took her apart piece by piece. Straight sets, 6-3, 6-3. In just over an hour and a half, Eala showcased a brand new, vastly improved, highly lethal clay court game. Her racket head speed was blinding. Her shot making was absolutely fearless, painting the lines with zero hesitation. But most impressively, her mental focus was carved from solid granite. When the pressure mounted, when the stadium got loud, she did not flinch. When Pavlyuchenkova tried to assert her physical dominance and hit through the court, Eala pushed right back, absorbing the massive pace and redirecting it down the line with lethal pinpoint intent. The reaction to that first round victory was purely electric. Social media exploded. The tennis community woke up, rubbed their eyes, and realized that the hype surrounding this girl is completely real. This is now her third consecutive dour year advancing past the first round in Madrid, definitively proving that her success in the Spanish capital is not some lucky fluke. It is a proven pattern. It is her territory. There is a brand new life in her game this year. There is a proof. Visible swagger in her step. The momentum she has built over the last few months is a massive towering tidal wave, and she is riding it beautifully, surfing right toward the upper echelon of the sport. But as the old painful saying goes in professional sports, there is always a bigger monster waiting in the dark. You can climb the mountain, but there is always a dragon guarding the peak. And in the round of 64, that dragon takes the form of Elise Mertens. If Alex Eala is the blazing, uncontrollable fire, Elise Mertens is the freezing Ford, absolute zero ice. The 30-year-old Belgian veteran is currently ranked number 21 in the world in singles. But let me tell you right now, that number does not even begin to scratch the surface of her pedigree or her danger. May only the leitch, Carly Mortens surface of hierdoor overwonnen. May only the leitch doubles. She is a reigning dominant powerhouse with multiple Grand Slam titles under her belt. And if you are wondering why her doubles resume matters in a singles match, let me explain something to you. It matters everything. Elite doubles players see the geometry of a tennis court completely differently than anyone else on the planet. They are tactical masterminds. They are playing three-dimensional chess while everyone else is playing checkers. They know exactly how to cut off angles before they even materialize. They know how to transition from the baseline to the net completely flawlessly, and their hands at the net are like lightning strikes. Mertens possesses a tennis IQ that is simply off the charts. She is not going to blow you off the court with a 120-mile-per-hour serve. She is not going to hit a smoking forehand winner from 10 feet behind the baseline. What she will do is far worse. She will slowly, methodically, and painfully suffocate you. Elise Mertens is the human equivalent of a brick wall covered in barbed wire. She is known universally on the tour for her maddening, soul-crushing consistency. She forces her opponents to hit one more ball, and then another, until their lungs are burning for oxygen, their legs feel like they are filled with wet cement, and their mind begins to fracture under the pressure. She thrives in the deep, dark waters of long, grueling rallies. She knows how to absorb immense power and send it right back with interest. She knows how to read the body language of a young, eager player. She watches the way they walk between points. She watches their breathing. She finds the tiny, microscopic crack in their emotional armor, and she exploits it ruthlessly without a single ounce of mercy. And perhaps the most terrifying fact of all for the Eat Tota camp today is this. Tota Doubly Mertens already knows exactly how to beat Alex Eala. Tota, we cannot talk about this monumental matchup without addressing the massive totablin in the room. We have to talk about the history. We have to talk about the head-to-head record. These two women have met before in the theater of combat. It was back in 2023 on the blistering, lightning-fast hard courts of Monastir. It was a highly anticipated clash back then too, but it turned into a brutal, humiliating lesson for the young Filipina. Mertens took the match 7-5, 6-0. Let me repeat that. 6-0 in the second set. A bagel. It was not just a loss. It was a tactical clinic. It was an absolute dissection. Mertens used every single ounce of her veteran savvy to completely derail Tota's rhythm. She exposed her youth. She exposed her impatience on the fast, hard court. She baited the young star into hitting low-percentage shots, watching as Tota hit ball after ball into the net or wide into the alleys. It is a memory that surely lingers in the dark corners of Alex Eala's mind. It is a psychological scar that aches every time she hears the Belgian's name. But here is the twist. Here is the beautiful dramatic wrinkle that makes this rematch in Madrid the single most compelling story of the entire tournament. We are no longer on a hard court in Monastir. We are not playing a fast skidding game anymore. We are on the deep red clay of Madrid. It is a different surface, a different continent, and an entirely different story. Tony Khan somos Wallace Rummet, and tennis is a sport deeply governed by the ground beneath the player's feet. It is a game dictated by friction and bounce. On a hard court, the ball skids low and fast. It highly rewards flat, aggressive hitting. It rewards the player who takes the ball incredibly early and rushes their opponent. But clay is a living, breathing, treacherous entity. It grabs the ball. It slows the pace down. It makes the ball bounce violently high, kicking up toward the player's shoulders. It completely neutralizes massive flat power and instead heavily rewards extreme topspin, relentless stamina, and the intellectual ability to construct points like a grandmaster. Elise Mertens has a very solid record on clay, boasting a win rate of over 60% on the surface throughout her career. She knows how to move on it. She knows how to survive on it, thanks almost entirely to her towering tennis IQ. But make no mistake, clay is not her primary weapon. It is a surface she tolerates. For Alex Eala, however, clay is home. Clay is her sanctuary. This is the dirt she bleeds on, sweats on, and suffers on at the Nadal Academy every single day of her life. The high-altitude bounce of the Madrid clay combined with the grit of the surface will allow her to fully unleash her explosive, incredibly heavy forehand. The ball will kick up beautifully into her strike zone. The slower surface will give her that extra crucial split second to set up her brutal ground strokes. Furthermore, the thick red dirt will make it significantly harder for Mertens to hit cleanly through the court, forcing the Belgian to rely on placement and trickery rather than pace. This is not just a rematch for Alex Eala. This is her golden, undeniable opportunity to drag the veteran out of her comfort zone and plunge her deep into the muddy trenches of a clay court war. Let us break down the physical and tactical warfare that is about to take place between these baselines in just a few moments. When the umpire calls play, when the first ball is tossed into the air, you are going to witness a fascinating, highly contrasting clash of styles. Eala is going to try to dictate the terms of engagement from the very first strike. She absolutely has to. She cannot afford to let Mertens settle into a comfortable, hypnotic, metronomic rhythm. Eala's entire strategy will rely on her vastly improved blazing court speed to track Down Mertens' deeply placed, aggravating balls, and then violently shift the clank momentum of the rally with her aggressive baseline play. She will be looking for those inside-out forehands. She will be looking to run around her backhand and punish the ball, pinning Mertens deep into the ad-court corner, trying to break down the veteran's defense. We saw it executed perfectly against Pavlyuchenkova, Kovalyuchenkova. Eala's ability to generate immense blinding racket head speed allows her to hit clean winners from seemingly impossible defensive positions, a trait directly inherited from watching Rafa Nadal on these exact same courts. But Elise Mertens knows this. The Belgian veteran is completely aware of the ever-incoming storm. She will not panic when Eala starts ripping the ball. She will not flinch when the crowd roars for the young Filipina. Mertens will rely heavily on her world-class return game. Because of this, Eala must serve with an incredibly high first serve percentage today. If she falters, if her first serve drops below 60% and she is forced to rely on her second serve, Mertens will step directly inside the baseline. She will take the ball incredibly early, robbing Eala of time and instantly putting the young player on the defensive before the rally has even truly begun. Once the ball is in play, watch carefully what Mertens does. She will use her nasty biting backhand slice. She will use perfectly disguised drop shots that die completely in the thick dirt. She will constantly change the height, the spin, and the trajectory of the ball. She will constantly change the height, the spin, and the trajectory of the ball. She will constantly change the height, the spin, and the trajectory of the ball. She will constantly change the height, the spin, and the trajectory of the ball. She will constantly change the height, the spin, and the trajectory of the ball. She will constantly change the height, the spin, and the trajectory of the ball. Yes, Cohen's loin toint compt as 4 bales tossed to time o me, a la first tompt as 4 bale, a bullet wound up being out. Hit one ball flat and deep, driving Eala back, and the very next ball will be high, loopy, and devoid of pace. Her entire goal, her entire tactical blueprint, is to disrupt Eala's timing. She wants to frustrate the 20-year-old. She wants Eala to feel like she cannot find a rhythm. She wants the young star to go for too much, too soon, to panic, and to pull the trigger on low percentage. Highlight reel shots that ultimately end up in the bottom of the net. The key to this match, the absolute, undeniable deciding factor, will not just be physical. It will not just come down to who hits the ball harder or who runs faster. It will be fiercely psychological. It is going to come down to pure, unadulterated composure in the biggest, most suffocating moments of the match. What happens when the score is locked at 4 games all in the third set? What happens when the sun is beating down, both players are exhausted, and Eala finds herself facing a crucial break point? Will the demons of the past resurface? Will she revert back to the rushed, anxious, inexperienced player who lost that second set 6-0 in Monastir? Or will she take a deep breath, look at her coaching box, and channel the icy, rock-solid mental focus she just displayed in the first round? Can she prove that she has outgrown her own past? For Alex Eala, this match is exactly what experts in the sports world call a Penga prove-it moment. When you are a highly touted rising star, when you have the Penga prove-it media writing glowing articles about you, there comes a specific point in time when you must graduate. You must graduate from being the plucky, lovable underdog with endless potential to becoming a legitimate, terrifying, undeniable threat to the established order of the WTA Tour. To do that, you have to take a scalp. You have to take down a giant. You have to prove that you can look across the net at a Grand Slam champion, look past their glittering resume, look past their intimidating world ranking, and physically, mentally break their will to win. Eala has all the necessary tools in her arsenal to make this incredibly competitive. She has the fresh 20-year-old legs, she has the fearless, aggressive approach, and crucially, she has the massive crowd support. With a huge Filipino diaspora living in Spain combined with local Spanish fans who view her as an adopted daughter of the Nadal Academy, the stadium is going to sound like a home match for her. You can feel the electric, nervous energy building around her right now. It is a vibe that cannot be ignored, but Elise Mertens did not travel to Madrid to be a stepping stone in someone else's fairy tale. She is not going to politely hand over her hard-earned position in the hierarchy of women's tennis. She is the ultimate test. She is the gatekeeper. Mertens has faced dozens of young, hungry, hyped-up players just like Alex Eala over the course of her long, illustrious career, and she has sent almost all of them packing with a harsh dose of reality. Mertens knows how to weather the early storm. She knows that young players often run on pure adrenaline in the first set, hitting unbelievable shots fueled by the crowd, and she knows exactly how to drain that adrenaline out of them. Drop by, extending the match into a grueling, miserable war of attrition. She will make Tenga prove it moment. Eala bleed for every single point. If you look at the predictions from tennis analysts and experts around the world this morning, they are completely deeply divided. It is a match that has torn the tennis community in half. The traditional conservative minds in tennis are siding heavily with Mertens. They look at the stark contrast in rankings. They look at her tactical brilliance and her miles of experience. They look at that previous head-to-head victory and say that experience, guile, and tactical brilliance and her miles of experience. They look at that previous head-to-head victory and say that experience, guile, and tactical brilliance and her miles of experience. They look at that previous head-to-head victory and say that experience, guile, and tactical brilliance and her miles of experience. They look at the discipline will always triumph over raw youth and high-pressure situations. They fundamentally believe that Mertens' doubles instincts at the net and her uncanny ability to save breakpoints will ultimately wear the young, impatient Filipina down, forcing her into a spiral of unforced errors. But then there are those who look deeper. There are those who do not just read the stat sheets, but actually watch the tape. Those who look at the fire burning fiercely in Alex Eala's eyes this week. A growing number of experts are giving the rising star a massive legitimate chance to pull off the colossal upset today, predicting a brutal, absolute dogfight of a 3-set war. They point to Eala's heavy topspin completely tailored for this exact surface. They point to the overwhelming wave of momentum she is carrying from the first round. But most importantly, they point to her movement. There is a saying in tennis, if you can move beautifully on clay, you can beat anyone in the world. And Alex Eala is currently moving like an absolute ghost on the red dirt, tracking down balls that have no business being returned. As the players finish their warm-ups and prepare to step up to the baseline, the tension inside the stadium is practically suffocating. The air is thick with anticipation. Remember, this is not just a game of hitting a fuzzy yellow ball back and forth over a net. This is human drama at its absolute finest, played out in real time with nowhere to hide. Think about the deeply personal stories attached to this single match. Think about the little kids right now in Manila, in Cebu, in Davao, holding cheap tennis rackets in their living rooms, watching their ultimate hero step onto the grandest stage in the world. Think about the families united in front of their televisions, experiencing pure, unadulterated joy and fierce national pride every single time the bright colors of the Philippine flag flash on the international broadcast graphic. Win or lose today, Alex Eala is already doing something truly monumental. She is tearing down invisible geographical and cultural barriers. She is proving to an entire generation that elite talent coupled with insane hard work can rise from anywhere on the globe. She is giving goosebumps to millions of everyday people who see their own lofty dreams, their own struggles reflected in her relentless pursuit of greatness. But make absolutely no mistake about her intentions today. She did not fly to Madrid just to inspire people. She did not step onto this court just to be a good story for the broadcasters to talk about. She came here to win. She came here to exact revenge for the humiliation she suffered in Monastir. She came here to stare down a giant of the sport and show the entire world the lethal depth of her evolution as a player. She came here to prove she belongs at the top. The stadium lights are burning intensely bright overhead. The red clay has been perfectly smooth, a pristine, beautiful canvas waiting to be violently scarred and torn up by the sliding, desperate feet of two fierce warriors. The Tonra chair umpire is climbing into the seat, preparing to call time. The crowd is murmuring, a low, nervous, vibrating hum of anticipation that you can feel in your chest. A hum that is about to erupt into a deafening, thunderous roar. The low, nervous, vibrating hum of anticipation that you can feel in your chest. A hum that is about to erupt into a deafening, thunderous roar. The moment. The first racket makes contact with the ball. It is the oldest, most classic tale in the history of sports. The unstoppable, blazing force of youth crashing violently head-on into the immovable, icy object of veteran experience. Can the young, fearless Filipina phenom use her blazing speed, her heavy, punishing topspin, and the indomitable fighting spirit of the Nadal Academy to batter down the Belgian brick wall? Or will the brilliant, calculating, cold-blooded maestro silence the roaring crowd, outsmart the young prodigy, and remind the entire world exactly why she is considered tennis royalty? The talking is finally done. The expert analysis is over. The predictions mean absolutely nothing now. There is nowhere left to hide. There are no excuses left to make. It is just two women, two rackets, and the brutal, unforgiving, beautiful red dirt standing between them and victory. The entire world is watching. The entire country of the Philippines is cheering. The Mutua Madrid Open is about to catch absolute fire. Settle in, brace yourselves, take a deep breath. The match of the tournament is about to begin.